In a quiet town, where street lights hummed and the world slept, there was a small workshop. Inside, amidst flickering candlelight and the soft whirring of gears, a young boy named Theo sat, surrounded by the forgotten and the broken. Here, a soldier with a missing leg; there, a ballerina who could no longer twirl. He believed that every toy, no matter how worn, held a story, a memory, a flicker of joy waiting to be rekindled. Tonight, his focus was on a small, tarnished music box. Its tune was lost, its tiny dancer frozen in silence.
Ho, ho, ho!
With gentle hands and the patience of a seasoned clockmaker, Theo worked, his tools moving like an extension of his own will. He tightened a spring here, polished a gear there. Finally, he turned the small key. A delicate, tinkling melody filled the quiet room, a sound thought to be lost forever. Theo smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that lit up his face. "Every toy has a heart," he whispered to the dancing ballerina. "It just needs someone to listen." One night, as Theo worked late, a strange thing happened.
Ho, ho, ho!
The old grandfather clock in the corner, a stoic guardian of time, began to behave erratically. Its long pendulum, which had swung forward for as long as anyone could remember, suddenly slowed, stopped, and began to tick backward. One tick, two ticks, the air grew still, charged with an unspoken magic, mysterious chimes, unlike any the clock had ever produced, echoed through the workshop.
Ho, ho, ho!
As Theo watched, his breath held in his chest. A hidden panel in the clock's base clicked open, revealing not the expected weights and chains, but a glowing staircase, spiraling down into an unknown darkness. A whisper of cool, sweet-smelling air drifted up from below. For a moment, Theo hesitated. But his curiosity, a tool sharper than any in his kit, won out. He grabbed his trusty wrench, took a deep breath, and stepped over the threshold, leaving the familiar world of his workshop behind.
Ho, ho, ho!
The staircase led him to a place beyond imagination. He found himself in a vast, cavernous world where physics seemed to bend to a different set of rules. Years the size of houses floated gently through the air, their teeth interlocking with silent precision. Conveyor belts made of pure light carried half-finished toys that glowed with an inner luminescence. Tiny, diligent robot helpers zipped back and forth, their metallic feet making soft clicking sounds on the crystalline floors. It was a factory, but not one of smoke and steel.
Ho, ho, ho!
This was a factory that built dreams. As he stood in awe, a gentle, holographic voice echoed around him, seeming to come from the very air itself. "Welcome, little inventor," it said, its tone warm and ancient. "The world above has forgotten wonder. Its children have forgotten how to dream. Help us bring it back." Theo's eyes, wide with amazement, began to shine with a new sense of purpose. He looked at the marvelous, impossible machinery around him, then back at his simple wrench.
Ho, ho, ho!
"Then let's build joy," he declared, his voice filled with a determination that belied his years. Guided by the holographic voice and the little robot helpers, Theo ventured deeper into the magnificent factory. He learned that this was the source of all imaginative toys, the very birthplace of childhood wonder. But at the heart of this magical place lay a great sadness. He arrived at the core of the factory, a colossal chamber that housed a giant, intricate machine.
Ho, ho, ho!
It was covered in a thick layer of dust, its once glowing pipes dark and cold. This was the heart engine, the very soul of the factory. And it was dying. The little robots gathered around him, their mechanical heads drooping. "It has been silent for a long time," one of them beeped softly. "Without it, no new toys can be born. Without it, no child will dream again." Theo, the boy who could fix anything, approached the silent behemoth.
Ho, ho, ho!
He ran his hands over its cold surface, his inventor's eyes scanning every detail, every joint and connection. He saw intricate patterns and complex mechanisms, but he also saw what was missing. There, in the very center of the engine, was a small star-shaped slot, empty and dark. A piece was gone. Suddenly, a memory sparked. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small gear he had just crafted for the music box. It was shaped like a tiny star. With trembling hands, he held it up to the slot. It was a perfect fit.
Ho, ho, ho!
But as he moved to place the gear, a deafening siren blared through the factory. Red lights flashed, and the ground began to shake violently. The robots scurried in panic. The rust. They cried. When creation wakes, destruction follows. From massive pipes overhead, a thick, corrosive rust began to pour out, flooding the factory floor and eating away at the brilliant machinery. The beautiful floating gears began to wobble and fall, crashing to the ground with thunderous noise.
Ho, ho, ho!
The entire dream factory was beginning to crumble. Chaos erupted, but Theo's focus never wavered. He knew what he had to do. With the robot's help, he scrambled up the side of the shaking heart engine. He tightened loose bolts, pulled giant levers to redirect power, and dodged falling debris. It was a race against time, a battle against decay itself. Finally, he reached the central panel and leaped onto it, his small frame dwarfed by the massive machine. He looked down at the encroaching rust, then at the silent engine.
Ho, ho, ho!
"You're not broken," he shouted over the din, his voice ringing with conviction. "You just needed someone to believe in you." With a final push, he inserted the star-shaped gear into its slot and turned it. The moment the gear clicked into place, an explosion of pure, white light erupted from the heart engine, blasting away the rust and decay. The deafening sirens fell silent, replaced by a triumphant, orchestral swell of music that filled every corner of the vast cavern.
Ho, ho, ho!
A wave of energy pulsed through the factory. One by one, the toys on the conveyor belts sparked to life. Wooden soldiers began to march, their painted smiles bright. Tin birds took flight, singing mechanical lullabies. Teddy bears opened their button eyes and began to dance. The entire factory was alive, humming with a vibrant, joyful energy that pushed back the darkness. The world of forgotten dreams was reborn, not through some grand magical spell, but through the simple, profound act of care from one small boy.
Ho, ho, ho!
The holographic voice whispered, its tone filled with gratitude. "You have restored wonder, little inventor. You have reminded us what it means to create. But the world needs your light now." As the music swelled, a familiar doorway shimmered into existence, leading back to his own quiet workshop. The next morning, the sun rose over the quiet town, but something was different. A current of joy seemed to run through the streets. Children woke up to find incredible gifts on their doorsteps.
Ho, ho, ho!
A toy rocket that could actually hover a few inches off the ground. A doll that whispered secrets and giggled. A kaleidoscope that showed not just patterns of glass, but swirling galaxies and distant stars. These weren't ordinary toys. They were sparks of wonder, each one crafted with care and a touch of impossible magic. No one knew where they came from. Parents were baffled, but the sound of children's laughter, purer and happier than it had been in years, echoed through the village.
Ho, ho, ho!
And in the town square, the old clock tower, which had been slow for decades, ticked with perfect, steady rhythm once more. Time itself seemed to have been mended. From his workshop window, Theo, now a little older, a little wiser, watched the children play. A soft, warm glow emanated from the grandfather clock behind him, a quiet promise of the secret it kept. He smiled, knowing his work was just beginning. The greatest inventions, after all, aren't built with metal and gears, but with a boundless and believing imagination.
Ho, ho, ho!
Thank you so much for joining me on this magical journey today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures into the world of imagination. See you next time.
Ho, ho, ho!